Here is the harsh truth. If you are dealing with toxic people, it is not their fault. It is yours for letting them into your life. But don't worry, I am going to show you how to regain control and render them powerless through a cold and calculated Machiavellian strategy. Toxic people do not appear out of nowhere. They thrive on the cracks in your boundaries, feeding on your reactions like emotional puppeteers. Most people let them wreak havoc because they are too afraid to face the harsh reality. You cannot change them, but you can outmaneuver them with cunning, depriving them of their power without them even realizing it. In this lesson, I will reveal brutally honest, Machiavellian, and foolproof methods for dealing with toxic individuals, inspired by Jungian wisdom on the shadow and individuation. By the end, you will realize that your peace has always been in your own hands, and that true strength comes from integrating your shadow rather than projecting it onto others. You must forgive, but do not forget that forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood virtues. Many people think that forgiving someone means being weak, naive, or ready to ignore the pain they have caused you. But true Jungian forgiveness is something entirely different. According to Carl Jung, resentment is often a projection of your unintegrated shadow, those dark parts of yourself that you refuse to see. Forgiving does not mean excusing someone's behavior or welcoming them with open arms, but rather freeing yourself from the chains of resentment by integrating your own dark side. I learned this the hard way years ago. My friend, let's call him Alex, and I were inseparable. At least that's what I believed. One day, I confided in Alex about a very personal matter, convinced he would keep the secret. But a week later, I discovered that he had revealed my secret to others, distorting the story in a way that portrayed me in the worst possible light. The betrayal cut me deeply. I was furious, not only at Alex, but also at myself for trusting him. That anger ate away at me for months, perhaps even years. Every time I saw him or heard his name, it felt as if the wound was reopening. I carried this resentment everywhere and did not realize how heavily it weighed on me, because it reflected a part of my shadow that I had not yet integrated. Then, during a particularly difficult period, I came across a quote: "Resentment is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies." These words struck me deeply. Jung teaches us that knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of others. I understood that while Alex had moved on and was living his life, I was the one trapped in a cycle of anger and suffering, projecting my unrecognized shadow onto him. My resentment was not punishing him. It was punishing me by preventing me from reaching individuation. So I decided to forgive, but not in the way one usually imagines, and with Machiavellian cunning. I did not call Alex to reconcile, nor did I invite him back into my circle of friends. I forgave him in silence, in my heart, while integrating the lesson of my shadow. I let go of my anger, not for Alex, but for my own inner peace and to reclaim my power. But here is the crucial, strategic point. I did not forget that the betrayal had taught me an invaluable lesson about trust, and more precisely about whom to trust and whom to keep at a calculated distance. Forgiving Alex allowed me to move forward without bitterness, but remembering the betrayal ensured that I would not make the same mistake again. Jungian forgiveness is often perceived as weakness, but in reality, it is the ultimate act of strength, integrating your shadow so you no longer project it. It takes courage to free yourself from anger when clinging to it seems justified. It takes Machiavellian wisdom to understand that forgiving does not mean giving someone another chance to hurt you. Forgetting, on the other hand, is another story. Forgetting means allowing the same pain to return to your life through naivety. See forgiveness as the healing of a scar. You do not reopen the wound, but you do not erase the scar either. The scar is a reminder not of the pain, but of the Jungian lesson about your shadow. It reminds you of what you have endured and what you have learned about yourself. It does not define you, but it influences your future decisions with cold strategy. The Stoics often insist on the power of mastering emotions and forgiveness, but Jung goes further. This is a perfect example of individuation. Forgiving means regaining control of your story by integrating your shadow. It means refusing to let the toxic actions of others dictate your inner peace. By not forgetting, you protect yourself from the same trap with cunning. I leave you to meditate on this point. Forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself, and not to the person who hurt you. Forgetting, on the other hand, harms our development and our individuation. Let go of bitterness, retain the lesson of your shadow, and carry it like a Machiavellian shield, not as a burden. Limit your access to certain people. Let's be honest, some people do not deserve a prime place in your life. Whether it is family, longtime friends, or colleagues you see every day, if a person is toxic, draining, or never respects your boundaries, it is time to reduce their influence through a calculated strategy. Call it harsh if you want, but protecting your inner peace is not selfishness. It is a matter of survival and power. Here's the problem. I used to want to please everyone. If someone needed my time, my energy, or my attention, I gave it to them without question. I would stay on the phone for hours with a friend who only called to complain, completely ignoring my own difficulties. I bent over backward for them. For people who wouldn't even lift a finger for me. Does that sound familiar? One day, after yet another exhausting conversation with someone who seemed to take me for their free therapist, I hung up, completely drained, and asked myself, why am I doing this? What am I getting out of this relationship? That is when I understood that not everyone deserves unlimited access to you. And here is where it gets complicated. Limiting access does not necessarily mean cutting ties. Sometimes it involves setting subtle, Machiavellian boundaries without them even noticing. For example, that friend who always unloads their problems on you. Start responding with, "Wow, that sounds tough. What are you going to do about it?" You will see how quickly they lose interest when you stop feeding their negativity. Or take that family member who constantly criticizes your life choices. There is no need to argue or justify yourself. A simple nod, a smile, and keeping your plans to yourself is enough. Their disapproval loses its grip when they don't have all the details. I also had a colleague who fed on gossip and drama. Every time she cornered me in the break room with, "You wouldn't believe what so-and-so did," I would reply nonchalantly, "Oh, office drama isn't really my thing," and walk away. It was awkward at first, but guess what? They stopped trying to drag me into their stories. Limiting access to your circle means recognizing that not everyone deserves access to your energy and your emotions. It means creating Machiavellian hierarchies, an inner circle for those who support you, and an outer circle for the energy vampires. And yes, some people may find you cold or distant for it, but ask yourself this: do you want to be loved by everyone or respected by the right people while controlling the game? Here is the positive side. Imagine your life as a VIP club. You are the bouncer, and not everyone gets in. The toxic complainers get general admission, if they even make it that far. The drama queens can watch from the parking lot. And the people who truly appreciate and respect you are in the VIP lounge with you, sipping the finest wines. Limiting access to your circle is not being cruel. It is being intelligent and strategic like Machiavelli. Your time and energy are limited resources. Do not waste them on people who do not appreciate them. Because here is the truth. When you begin to value yourself by integrating your shadow, the right people will come to you. They will appreciate you too, and the wrong people will either get their act together or withdraw on their own. Win-win. With cunning. Use humor to disarm them. Sometimes the best way to handle a toxic person is not to take them too seriously. By employing a Machiavellian tactic of psychological judo, toxic people thrive on tension. They feed on drama, arguments, and conflict. But what happens when you refuse to give them what they want? Instead of arguing, make a joke, smile, or play along just enough to deflate their ego. It is like popping a balloon. Suddenly, their grand spectacle collapses like a souffle. I remember a particularly toxic colleague who loved criticizing everyone. Nothing was ever good enough for this person. Work outfits, even the way people drank their coffee. One day, he decided to comment on my messy desk in front of everyone. "Wow, your desk looks like a battlefield. How do you find anything in this mess?" He sneered. Instead of getting offended or defending myself, I shrugged and said, "You're absolutely right. It's my creative chaos." Albert Einstein's desk was messier than mine, so I'm clearly on the path to genius. The group laughed, and their attempt to humiliate me completely backfired. They never bothered me about my desk again. Using humor disarms toxic people for several reasons. It strips them of all power over their words with light cunning. When you laugh at their insults or jabs, you show them that their attempts to hurt you are in vain. It changes the energy of the interaction. Toxic people seek negativity. Humor brings lightness and unpredictability, which they often struggle to handle. It allows us to stay in control. By remaining calm and witty, we show that we are unshakable, which can frustrate them more than direct confrontation. But here is the Machiavellian key. Our humor must be light and intelligent, not aggressive or hurtful. If our joke comes across as sarcastic or mean, it could escalate the situation. The goal is to make their negativity ridiculous without stooping to their level, while observing their reaction to maneuver them better. For example, if someone keeps interrupting you in a meeting, you could say with a smile, "Hey, I didn't know we were taking turns talking today. It's your turn now." It is firm but funny, and it gets the message across without creating unnecessary conflict. Humor also works when toxic people try to guilt trip you. If someone says, "Oh, I guess you're too busy to take care of me these days," reply, "You know me well. I auditioned for the role of the terrible friend, and it seems I'm perfect for it." This disarms their manipulation tactic while keeping the atmosphere light. Using humor does not mean minimizing the seriousness of their toxicity, but refusing to let them drag you into their negativity. It is a subtle way to affirm your Jungian strength and prove that their attempts to control or belittle you do not affect you, because you have integrated your shadow. Know when to walk away. Distancing yourself from a toxic person is one of the most difficult, but also one of the most liberating decisions you will make. It is not just about leaving a bad situation, but also about reclaiming your inner peace, your time, and your energy by following a Machiavellian strategy of calculated absence. But here is the catch. It is not always dramatic or sudden. Sometimes, knowing when to walk away simply means choosing yourself over their chaos. Recognizing that their toxicity often reflects unintegrated collective or personal shadows. Toxic people are experts at convincing you to stay. They will say, "I'm sorry, I'll change," or guilt trip you with phrases like, "If you leave, you're abandoning me." And let's be honest, there is always a small voice inside you wondering if leaving makes you the bad person. But here is the Jungian and Machiavellian truth. Staying in a relationship, whether friendly, romantic, or familial, that drains you of your substance is not noble. It is self-destructive and prevents your individuation. I had a close friend who was the life of the party, but a nightmare in private. Every conversation revolved around her problems, her needs, and her dramas. If I ever talked about my own difficulties, she would minimize them or turn them into a competition. "Oh, you had a bad day? Let me tell you about mine." At first, I made excuses. She's going through a tough time. She doesn't really mean it. But months turned into years, and I realized I was giving everything to this relationship without receiving anything in return. The breaking point came during a personal crisis. I needed her, I reached out, and her response was, "That's tough, but I have my own problems right now." That is when I understood. She was not toxic out of malice, but out of simple indifference, perhaps projecting her own shadow. I finally decided to walk away, and even though it was painful, I felt immense relief by integrating this lesson. Walking away does not necessarily mean cutting ties. It can mean reducing contact, immediately stopping calls and messages, or gradually making the other person disappear from your life through a silent strategy. Setting boundaries, such as saying, "I'm not available to talk about that," or "I don't think I can help you," are firm but respectful ways to step back, to detach emotionally, even if you still see or speak to them occasionally. You must stop letting their opinions or behaviors affect you, because that would feed their hold over you. The controversial point is that walking away sometimes means leaving the family circle. Society expects us to remain connected to our family, and the idea that we must tolerate toxic relatives because it's family is false. Blood ties do not authorize abuse, manipulation, or exhaustion. Walking away does not mean hating, but choosing to protect yourself by integrating your shadow so you no longer project it. The message is deeper. Walking away is not an act of anger, it is an act of love. Love for yourself, for your well-being, and for the life you wish to lead. It is saying, "I deserve relationships that uplift me, not those that destroy me." And when you finally walk away, you will realize something powerful. You are not simply moving away from them. You are moving toward a healthier and happier version of yourself, a more individuated one. Walking away does not mean you have failed or given up. It means you have succeeded in recognizing your own worth by confronting your shadow. Toxic people often make you feel like you are too much, not enough, or somehow responsible. But as soon as you distance yourself, you will begin to see the truth. It was never you, it was always them and their unintegrated shadows. And the most beautiful part is that walking away gives you the freedom to fill your life with people who see your value and treat you accordingly. Surround yourself with positive people. Being around toxic individuals can feel like trying to swim with weights around your ankles. You are constantly being pulled down by their negativity, manipulation, or dramas. The best Jungian remedy? Surround yourself with people who uplift you, because your environment shapes your individuation. Positive people do not just bring positivity, they remind you of your worth, encourage your growth, and help you keep toxic energy at bay. Here is a simple truth: your environment shapes you. If you spend most of your time with toxic people, you will inevitably absorb some of their habits, attitudes, and even their worldview, reinforcing your own unintegrated shadow. But when you are surrounded by people who genuinely want what is best for you, something magical happens. You begin to see the best in yourself by positively integrating your shadow. Think about it. Have you ever had a friend who leaves you feeling lighter after spending time with them? Someone who listens without judgment, celebrates your successes without jealousy, and pushes you to go further in a genuinely uplifting way rather than a condescending one? These are the inspiring people you must seek out. For my part, I went through a period where I was caught in a cycle of toxic relationships. One day, I met a new colleague with a refreshing positivity and sincerity. He would say things like, "You're really good at that. Why don't you take the lead?" Or, "You handled that situation so well." His encouragement was so authentic that it surprised me. Over time, I realized I had become so used to hypocritical compliments and subtle jabs from toxic people that I no longer even knew what genuine support felt like. By spending more time with these people, I understood what I had been missing. They were not trying to compete, undermine, or manipulate. On the contrary, they inspired me to believe in myself and to be more demanding of myself in my relationships, fostering my individuation. Here is how to surround yourself with inspiring people. Identify your tribe. Seek out those who inspire you, encourage you, and energize you. They may be longtime friends, mentors, or even new acquaintances. Invest in quality relationships rather than maintaining a large circle of superficial ones. Focus on deepening your bonds with a few truly inspiring people. Give positivity back. Relationships are an exchange. Be the kind of inspiring person you want in your life. Listen, support, and celebrate others with authenticity. The controversial point. This may mean cutting ties or limiting contact with people who do not inspire you, even if they have been in your life for years. Loyalty is a beautiful quality, but it is not worth sacrificing your peace of mind for someone who constantly drains you. The deeper message is this: inspiring people do not just make you feel good. They remind you that life is meant to be shared with those who see the best in you. They help you become the best version of yourself simply by believing in you and offering space for your potential, while helping you integrate your shadow. Here is the reality. Toxic people will try to convince you that everyone is as selfish, bitter, or manipulative as they are. But positive people show you another truth. They remind you that kindness, respect, and authentic connections still exist. Once you experience it, you will wonder why you settled for less and why you projected your shadow for so long. Refuse to play their games. Toxic people feed on chaos. They are true emotional puppeteers who pull the strings to manipulate, provoke, or control you. Their games can be subtle, like guilt-tripping you into doing something you do not want, or outright explosive, like sowing discord to be the center of attention. The only way to win with a Machiavellian strategy? Stop playing. Categorically refuse to engage in their games. The problem is that toxic individuals are experts at bait. They will say things designed to provoke you or create situations where you feel obligated to react. But the moment you bite the hook, they have won. You are on their territory, playing by their rules. By refusing to play the game, you strip them of their power and leave them struggling in their own chaos. While protecting your individuation, I remember a particularly toxic family member who loved sowing discord during family gatherings. He would throw passive-aggressive remarks like, "It must be nice to have so much free time. Some of us actually work hard, you know." At first, I tried to explain myself. I tried to defend my choices, but it only made things worse. They twisted my words, inflamed the situation, and managed to paint me as the villain. One day, I decided to stop their game. After another offensive remark, I simply smiled and said, "You are entitled to your opinion," and changed the subject. They tried again, but I remained calm and detached. Their frustration was visible. They were not getting the reaction they wanted. Over time, they stopped targeting me because I refused to give them what they were seeking: the drama. Refusing to engage in conflict is not passivity. It is pure Machiavellian strategy. Here is how to master this skill. Recognize the bait. Pay attention to the patterns, to what triggers you, and to how they try to provoke you. Once you have spotted their tactics, you can prepare to respond differently by integrating the shadow that reacts within you. Stay calm. Toxic people seek an emotional reaction. Keep your composure and do not let their schemes influence your mood. Respond as little as possible, or not at all. Sometimes, silence is your most powerful weapon. Other times, a neutral and evasive response, like "that's interesting" or "I see," is enough to silence them. Set boundaries. Make it clear that you will not tolerate their behavior. For example, "I'm not going to discuss this right now," or "let's wait until we're ready for a constructive conversation." The controversial point, namely, refusing to engage does not mean letting yourself be walked over. It means choosing not to fight unnecessary battles. Toxic people may accuse you of being cold, contemptuous, or even cowardly, but that is their way of dragging you into their game. Remember that their opinion does not define you. The deeper message here concerns Jungian and Machiavellian control. By refusing to engage, you remind yourself that you do not owe your energy to anyone, especially not to someone who feeds on negativity. You set the terms of your interactions with the world without letting anyone else dictate them. Life is too short to get dragged into sterile arguments or toxic psychological games. When you step back and refuse to engage, you are not fleeing. You are rising above the situation, and in doing so, choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and strength over manipulation. It is a battle worth winning every single time by becoming the master of your shadow. Stay focused on your goal. Toxic people love to destabilize you. They feed on distractions and drag you into their chaos, dramas, or pettiness. It is almost as if their mission is to make their problems yours. But when you are deeply focused on your purpose, your goals, your values, and the life you are building, their comments begin to fade away. Focusing on your goal is not just a defense, it is a Machiavellian power strategy. The problem with toxic people is that they want to make you lose sight of your own goals. They criticize your ambitions, minimize your successes, or demand your attention at the worst moments. Why? Because a focused person represents a threat to their grip. If you are too busy thriving and realizing your dreams, you will have neither the time nor the patience for their nonsense. I worked with a colleague who was the very definition of toxicity. He spread rumors about everyone, created unnecessary drama, and constantly tried to drag others into his problems. At first, I fell into the trap. I would waste hours listening to his complaints or defending myself against his petty attacks. But I eventually realized that every minute spent on his nonsense was a minute lost from my work, my goals, and my peace of mind. So I decided to focus on what really mattered to me and let their chaos unfold without me. I began setting clear boundaries. I'm really busy right now. I can't deal with that. I avoided unnecessary conversations and devoted myself to excellence in my tasks. The more focused I became, the less hold others had on me. And most importantly, my focus inspired others to do the same, thereby reducing the number of people available to manipulate. Here is how to stay focused on your goal, even when surrounded by toxicity. Clarify your objectives. Write down what you are working toward and remind yourself why it matters. Keeping your goal at the center of your concerns will make toxic distractions less important. Create a mental shield. Treat toxic people as background noise. Acknowledge their presence if necessary, but do not let their negativity affect you, because it is often just a mirror of projected shadows. Say no without hesitation if their demands do not align with your goals. Do not hesitate to refuse. Your time is precious, use it wisely. Find your sources of motivation, surround yourself with people, books, and habits that remind you of your goal and fuel your determination. The controversial point? Staying focused on your goal may mean prioritizing yourself over relationships that bring you nothing, even with close friends or family. Some may accuse you of selfishness, but here is the truth. Focusing on your goal is not selfish. It is essential for your individuation. You cannot give what you do not have, and you cannot accomplish anything if your dreams are constantly compromised by the negativity of others. The deeper message is this: staying focused on your goal is not just about ignoring toxic people. It is also about respecting yourself. It is affirming that your time, your energy, and your aspirations are too valuable to be wasted in other people's dramas. Toxic people may try to distract you, but your goal is your anchor. When you know clearly what you are moving toward, their negativity cannot shake you. And as you pursue your goals, something incredible happens. You build a life so fulfilling and stable that their toxicity becomes insignificant. At that point, You are not merely surviving their chaos, you are thriving in spite of it. It is the ultimate victory, both Machiavellian and a Jungian. Eighth piece of advice: avoid speaking ill of them. Speaking ill of toxic people may seem satisfying in the moment, like a harmless way to vent your frustration or settle scores. But let's be realistic, the gossip never ends well. It keeps their toxicity alive in your life, turns you into what you are trying to escape, and worse, gives them free lodging in your mind, reinforcing your own shadow. If you want to handle toxic people effectively, resist the temptation to talk about them behind their backs. The reality is that toxic people are often hungry for attention, even negative attention. Gossip only feeds the drama they need, making you an unwitting accomplice in their schemes. Even worse, it creates a vicious cycle where their behavior dictates your actions, the exact opposite of Jungian self-mastery. I learned this the hard way. I had a notoriously toxic colleague who was always sowing discord and putting others down. A few of us would confide in each other during lunch breaks, sharing his latest antics. At first, it felt like camaraderie, but over time I realized something disturbing. Every conversation about him left me exhausted and bitter. Worse still, he eventually discovered our gossip and used it to play the victim. From that moment on, I decided to stop participating in the gossip. I focused on my professionalism and on addressing problems directly when necessary. It was not always easy. There were moments when I really wanted to vent, but I noticed a change after stepping out of that vicious cycle. I regained my energy and my integrity. Here is how to avoid spreading rumors about toxic people while protecting your mental health. Express your frustration in a constructive way. If you feel the need, confide in a trusted person who will not fuel it, such as a mentor or a therapist. Stick to the facts and avoid insults. If others start spreading rumors about the toxic person, redirect the conversation to more constructive topics. For example, let's focus on how we can better handle this situation. Prioritize solutions rather than dwelling on their behavior. Channel your energy into finding ways to preserve your peace and move forward. Practice Jungian empathy. Although you do not have to excuse their behavior, recognizing that toxic people often act out of their own suffering, their unintegrated shadow, can help you resist the temptation to gossip. The controversial point. Avoiding gossip may isolate you in a world where complaining about others seems to be the norm. You might even be accused of being too nice or passive. But here is the truth. Avoiding gossip is not a question of kindness. It is a question of Machiavellian intelligence. Gossip chains you to the very toxicity you are trying to escape. Giving it up sets you free. The deeper message is this: by refusing to spread rumors, you choose to break the cycle. By breaking this cycle of negativity, you prove to yourself and to others that you will not let the bad behavior of others drag you down to their level. Toxic people feed on chaos, and gossip is just another form of it. By stepping away from these conversations, you deprive them of the attention they crave and preserve your peace of mind. In doing so, you demonstrate one of the most powerful forms of self-respect, the ability to rise above the fray even when the temptation is great. While fully integrating your shadow, dealing with toxic people is not about changing them, but about protecting yourself with cunning and strategy. You cannot control their behavior, but you can control your reaction by mastering your shadow. The truth is that toxic people will always exist, but when you master the art of setting boundaries, staying focused, and refusing to play their games, they lose their grip on you. Never forget that your energy is precious. You have dreams to pursue, goals to achieve, and a life to build. Do not let anyone's negativity distract you from it. Hold strong, choose your inner peace, and keep moving forward, becoming a more whole and more powerful person.